Hi guys, it's me, Dawn with Mothers Like Me. I have my lovely guest, Yolanda, today. We're going to be telling her story, just like I said in my first episode, that I want to have more women that have the same situation as me be able to tell their story and be heard. So today I will be asking her questions, but in the beginning, she's just going to tell, your story on how you met, your husband and the kids and the life, and we'll just go with it at the end. It's kind of like girl talk.
Let's do it. My name's Yolanda, and this is episode 2 of Mothers Like Me. And I'll be sharing my story with you guys. I became a widow because technically we were still kind of married when he passed away, and we had a connection almost right away. I moved away for a couple of years, and even when I was out of state, he would always keep in touch, and should we jump right into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I moved away, and he would send me care packages, like I was in a different state, and he would send me like little Bay Area, like hyphy movement, little things, and yeah, it kept me kind of
made you be like, that's the Bay girl with you.
Yeah. I lived in Texas for a little bit, loved it, a little different, came back. It wasn't exactly home, but as soon as I came back, he was like, he knew my sister. My sister's the one who introduced us, and she thought he was so cool. We were probably like 16 years old, which meant that my sister and his brother were probably about 14 years old, and she just thought he was like the coolest. He had a car, he could drive them, he would take them to the movies, and she just thought he was the coolest, and like I had to meet him, so she invited him over one day, and he was super shy, which was different, because a lot of guys around that age aren't. They were pretty forward.
Yeah, because he was what? So you guys were 17?
I was 18? Probably about, my sister was having her quinceañera, and he would come around it was like right before everything started. So my sister was probably 14, and I was probably 16. My sister and I are 2 years apart, and she invited him over. She thought that I should meet him. She thought he was super cool, and we'd get along or whatever. So we did. We met each other, and I had a trip planned with some of my girlfriends, and my friends they've always been kind of older, so they already had cars and like access to like boats and things like that. So we were gonna do a lake day, and we invited him, and he was just trying to show off, and he said, "Oh yeah, I have jet skis, like the jet skis or whatever." So we invited him on our trip, and he came, but he wasn't able to get the jet skis. Come to find out later on, he had snuck out of the house. He didn't even ask, because we're still in high school. And he didn't even ask for permission or anything. He just took off that day. But I had no idea.
Yeah.
But he met us, and he picked me up, and he picked my friends up, and the whole way there, he was just so shy. He was just so shy.
Aww.
Yeah, I didn't really
Made you feel comfortable?
Yeah, safe for sure. Yeah, it was like a safe feeling. I didn't really feel like I had anything to worry about with him. From the moment that I met him, I just felt like I could be myself. And he met my friends. He kind of got to know what I was about and everything. And he kind of just stood back and
let you shine, let you do your thing.
He observed the situation. So that was when I was 16, and then I moved away not too long after that. I went to Texas for a couple of years, and that's where he would send me the care packages or whatever. But that was like a culture shock. Yeah. It was different.
Where'd you move to in Texas?
It's like southeast Texas. So we were like 2 hours south of Louisiana, and we were, of Houston, and we were 2 hours west of Louisiana. So we were like nowhere. We were, the place.
So there wasn't like a lot of things around there.
No. The population there is like 4,000 people, so very small town.
So super culture shock.
Culture shock for sure, yeah. So once my dad bought me a car, I was kind of like over it. I was like, I don't know if this is for me or if I want to be here anymore. So came back to California, and as soon as he got word that I was back, he was instantly like,
let's hang out.
What's up?
Yeah.
What's up? So we started hanging out, and I think probably about 3 months into the relationship, he was kind of like, let's get married. Let's get married like
3 months?
tomorrow. Yeah. After I came back, yeah.
That's pretty early.
What
were your thoughts on it? Like, were you like, yeah, let's do it? Or were you kind of like, oh, I don't know?
You know, I think that when you're so young like that, like, you don't really think of the consequences or the possibilities because, you know, real life, it's not that simple or easy, you know, it's just,
it's work.
But at the moment, we were just caught up in the moment, you know.
Puppy love.
We were caught up in the moment.
High school love,
Yeah, so we did. We eloped on like a Wednesday, and we got married.
Like in San Francisco, Tahoe?
We planned a trip to go to Reno, and we were going to go just the two of us, and invite like my brother or my sister and his brother, and just like a couple of friends or whatever. And then super last minute, we told our parents, and then our parents were completely supportive of it.
Really?
So they were down for it. They were.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy. Did they meet each other?
They had met each other.
Okay.
They kind of knew each other because my sister, again, she had a quinceañera. And his brother was in the quinceañera.
So they kind of already knew each other.
They kind of already knew each other, And then we dated, and it was like, we were best friends. Like, we honestly, we were. We got along. We had a lot of similarities. Like, we were very social. We liked to dance, you know. We liked to hang out. Like, we had mutual friends and things like that. So it was fun. We were young.
And how long after you guys got married did you have your first son?
So 3 months after dating, we got married, and then 6 months after getting married, we had our first son. His name is Raphael. So he has the same. He's actually Raphael the third.
Okay. So he's the third of Gogi. Okay.
So he has the same name as his grandpa and his dad, and he's kind of carrying on the legacy right now.
Do you think he likes being named after his dad?
I think it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, because I have the same thing with Frankie, because Frankie's the third, and I think especially since he has passed away, it's like he looks at it more like, I gotta do good, you know, I have to do good, like kind of live in, like, not his shadow, I would say, but just like, I know at times, because like he doesn't say it to me, but his teacher recently was just like, I can tell he really wants to try to make you guys proud and da 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 da. Yeah, so it's like, I think sometimes it's like a catch-22. It's cool to have your dad's name and stuff, but then it's like the pressure of like, well, if he was this, then I have to be this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I was asking, because I feel like Frankie sometimes does too.
Yeah, I think that especially because his dad passed away, like it kind of weighs on him a little bit more than it would than if his dad was still around, you know?
Right.
I think that his life has changed a little bit because, you know, he lost his dad, and he is the oldest, and we've got a little bit of a unique situation, so that's kind of something different, and I can imagine a little difficult for like a kid to handle, you know?
For sure. Because you have, he's the oldest, and then your youngest, you had how many, like, months later or like years later?
They're 3 years apart.
3 years apart, okay.
Yeah, which I feel is like perfect because if
they give you time to enjoy like your first one, and then because mine was like back to back. It was like the oldest, and then 2 years later, I feel like it was back to back, even though it wasn't, but it was like it was 1 to 3. I think that's what kind of like. Wow.
You went 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, because the twins, right? You know, I have my oldest. Yeah. So the oldest.
I didn't know they were all like a year apart.
Yes. No, the oldest is 2 years older than my twins. So yeah, so jumping from 1 to 3, it was just like it was a lot. But so then when you had your second one, were you kind of like, you feel like you guys were complete as your family, or like where were you guys at when you had your
we were married, and our first son was like planned, like we prayed for him, we asked for him. Our second one was a little bit of a surprise, you know, a little bit of a blessing sent from above, so that one was a little bit different. You know, it was a little bit, he always wanted to have a big family, he always wanted to have a lot of kids, so he was super excited. Yeah. But I was 21 with 2 kids, you know, it was scary.
That's all I was,
It was scary for me for a little bit, you know.
But you always said he always made you feel pretty safe. So I think that's also what also was like, you were kind of scared, but then you probably felt like, well, at least this is, you know, my family, you know. Yeah,
it was for sure our own little family. It wasn't, I mean, we had an idea of what we wanted, but our idea and what was actually happening was
Totally, yeah.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly what we thought it would be, you know?
Yeah. So you guys were young, you had your 21, then you had your second. You know, prior to him passing, where were you guys at? So like, you know, a couple months, give me kind of a vibe or feeling like, where were you and their dad at, you know, with, you know, your guys' relationship and the kids and everything? Where were you guys at before he passed?
So we'd separated and we were living apart. We had separate lives. We had gone through a lot. Like it wasn't always, I thought that, you know, we would live happily ever after, but the reality is that relationships take work and it's what you put into it. And when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, like you're not fully equipped, I don't think, to handle everything that it takes to make a family of four happen, especially without the love and support. Like we definitely had a lot of love and support, but I think that where our parents were at that point in their lives and where we were at that point in our lives, we're just not
crossing paths, right?
Yeah, it was not really helping, you know, because although they were loving and supportive, my mom and my dad were going through a divorce, and his mom and stepdad were going through a divorce, so it was hard.
So there's a lot of pressure on you guys, because it's not just you guys dealing with your daily mother, you know, lover, you know, stress. You also had to deal with the stress of your guys' families, because you guys both seem very close with your families. So I would think that would put a lot of pressure on you, knowing that they're going through something and you can't really like do anything about it.
We are, but I think that when you're so young like that, you still need some like guidance and direction, you know. And I think that like the direction that our families kind of directed us in wasn't exactly what we needed in order to make what we had going on work. And that's okay, but I learned from that. You know? We learned from it. I think we both learned from that.
So is that what helped you guys have a good relationship, you would say, like before it passed? Or like you guys were like not, because at that time you guys weren't together, correct?
We weren't, no. But we were always very open with each other, and we always like communicated with each other, and it was almost weird, like how close and how open
you guys were.
Yeah, because even though we weren't together, like there was still like some kind of like mutual understanding
and support. So that's always good.
Yeah, like
I think it's like you guys still trust each other. It's just you guys were kind of figuring things out because you guys were young. Like that's how I felt. Like we were young and we're growing with our kids. You know what I mean? So you start changing. That same person I was when he passed, I wasn't the same person when we first met. You know, I was a child. I was a kid. I didn't know anything. Everything was thinking about was cleaning my room and going to work. Like, you know, I wasn't thinking about like, wow, this kid needs to eat every day, or wow, my husband needs or person needs to eat. You know, so. I think you changed a lot, but it's really good that you guys were at least like, you know, like best friends still, you know?
Yeah, he was always very supportive, especially when it came to the boys, because like he knew that I've always wanted the best for my kids, you know, and he was always very supportive of that. Excuse me. So we had like a mutual understanding of each other, you know? Like he was very clear, and he let me know that he was a provider and he would provide, and I really didn't have to worry too much about that. So that was always,
it was nice to take a stress away, you know?
Yeah, so it turned from that like safe feeling to like a feeling of like security, you know? Even though we weren't together, like I knew he still had my back. Like I knew that he still supported me. I knew that he still would be there for his kids. Like our relationship was a little bit different like that. Like which was kind of weird in the moment, but like now it's something that I've learned to appreciate, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like one of those things, like once they're gone, it's kind of like you look back on it like, it wasn't that bad, or the way you were thinking about it, you probably think like, that was actually something, you know, a blessing, God did it for a reason.
Well, lesson learned for sure.
No, for sure, for sure. So, going to when he passed, do you want to go to that day, or is that day okay to talk about like where you were, like when you woke up, kind of to when it happened?
Yeah, so me and him had separated, and I thought that like, you know, we're married, eventually it'll all work out. You know, like we just need some time to grow. We need to learn from some of the mistakes, you know, this and that. And then he met another woman, and then he had another child. So when he passed away, I think the baby was about 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
So still pretty young.
Fresh.
And once I learned that she was pregnant and I kind of respected those boundaries.
Got it.
Which is a little weird to say because
you could have been petty, you could have been, you know, you could have a whole bunch of emotions in it, but
yeah, well, you know, it's just we were married, you know.
No, I get it.
So I had all kinds of mixed emotions and feelings about it at first because, like I said, like I thought that we would eventually
get together. I think it was more of like an
out.
accident, you know, and so I think that you understood kind of that. I don't mean accident, but I'm meaning that you knew that you guys said you're figuring it out, and with that being kind of not an open relationship, but with figuring out, you could have ended up talking to someone, you know, and not purposely, because you guys were separate,
which we did. Like we did our own thing. Like you know.
I don't think he went in it thinking like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have a baby. It's just kind of happened, you know.
But it did happen. So before he passed away, he was with this other woman, and they did have a baby together. So the baby was 6 months old when he passed away. So going to that day, so we had he worked a lot, and he had a pretty good job, and he started pretty early and he got out pretty late, but he always made it a point to like show up to, you know, the practices or games or things like that. And that weekend that he passed away, it just so happened to be his weekend. So I was a little bit late, which I tend to do sometimes, and he asked me to just drop the kids off with his girlfriend. So I was like, okay. Me and her, we had an adult conversation when I realized that they were getting serious, and I said, you know what? He had dated some like questionable women before that, so I said, as long as he's with one woman, like I think I'd rather him be with one woman than several women, or like someone who's like actually trying to have a future with him than like with
someone
people
who's
who
just
are,
you can't trust pretty much.
Yeah, because you know there's a lot of things that come from that. There's that lifestyle,
and your kids are going to be around it, so you want somebody respectable at least to be around your kids.
So we had a conversation, and we had an adult conversation, all of us, and I let her know. I was pretty honest. I'm a pretty honest person, and I let her know that, like, hey, you know, what you guys have going on doesn't really have a lot to do with me, but it will affect my children. So as long as you're able to be a positive influence on my children, I'll stay out of it.
And I think that's like a good adult way of handling it, because sometimes I think we get our feelings all into it, and it doesn't help our kids at all.
No.
So
maybe I could have done things a little bit differently if I think about it now. But in the moment, like, you know, he was going through a lot. He was kind of lost. And it's stressful.
Yeah, no, it is. So that day he was coming from work, or he was coming to you? Oh, because you said that the kids you dropped the kids off with the girlfriend. And so he was supposed to be going to her house to pick up the kids?
So they used to live together at this point, and I guess he had skipped work that day. He had a flat tire, and he wasn't able to make it to work or something like that. I'm not really, that's what I was told. But I guess he skipped out on work, and they were already having their own issues or whatever. So from what I heard is he did not go to work, and when she came home, they started arguing. So then I heard that he had bought a bike, which I was always against him having a motorcycle, because, you know, I got into a car accident, and the car accident that I got into was not my fault. So I learned that sometimes, hey, it's not always you, like sometimes it's other people.
And I just don't like bikes. I'm with you. I never did. He knew I never liked bikes. He got a bike too, and I was so upset. But I was like, you know, it's your life. I can't control you. You got it. But I just felt like a bike. I've heard too many horrible stories. You know, it's that's how I felt. Really?
Me and him,
You're a daredevil.
His parents had some, so we used to always like sneak off. And
so you know he always liked bikes.
But it's different when you have a family and reasons
That's my thing was, if he was a single man, that's fine, because if something happens to you, like, nobody's affected from it. But when you have kids, you got to think differently. You know what I mean? And so that was my whole thing with the bike thing. But so he got mad and he got on the bike.
Yeah, so he had bought a motorcycle not too long before he passed away, and he was actually learning how to drive still when he got into the accident.
Okay.
But so from what I heard, they got into an argument, and he hopped on his bike,
Mm-hmm.
and he went to go see his dad, which I thought was pretty special because, again, he's a junior.
Yeah.
There's an original, and then my
Right.
son's the third.
Right.
So, him and his dad, they were kind of off and on.
Yeah.
Like, they'd bump heads here and there. They're very similar.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were very similar.
Yeah.
And he went to go see his dad, and I kind of felt like he needed to make peace with that, maybe.
Yeah.
And me and him actually had a really good conversation the day that he passed away, too, before I even dropped off the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at a pretty good place. Like,
Yeah.
we were co-parenting, and it was working.
Yeah.
You know, like, he had his life, I had my life, or whatever. So he told me he was going to his dad's,
Mhm.
and he asked me to drop off the kids with his girlfriend.
Mhm.
And by this time, like, me and her had already had a conversation, you know, or whatever. And she had already, you know, she was pregnant for 9 months. And
Yeah,
she
yeah.
had a baby, you know, so I did, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't really think too much of it. And she was pretty respectable at the time, you know, like,
Okay.
we had boundaries,
Mhm.
and she respected those, and I respected her boundaries. So
Mhm.
we were all in a pretty good place. So he asked me to drop them off with her, so I did. And I remember my little sister at the time, she was cheering for any Al-Kai. This
Mhm.
is when I'm sorry, Najee Harris used to play, by the way. So those games were a lot of fun. So we went to go watch her football game, and it was just weird. Like, it was, you know, like, some days just feel off.
Yes.
It was one of
very
those
off for mine
days
too.
where
Yes.
it just felt
off from the beginning. That's why I was asking, like, when you woke up, did you feel certain things? Because I felt like, I don't know, that day was just, like you said, I felt off, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it was from, like, the moment that I woke up, but
Yeah.
it was from the moment that I dropped off my kids, I
Okay,
think.
so you kind of felt something.
Yeah, so we go and we watched this game with my sister,
Mhm.
and all of our cousins showed up, and we've got a pretty big family, and we're not always able to get together all the time. But one of my cousins is my goddaughter, and she was there, so we were having a pretty good time. We all went out, we decided we'd watch the game, and then we'd go to Buffalo Wild Wings afterwards or whatever. So we did, and while we're there, my little goddaughter, which happened to be his goddaughter too, she says, "Oh, check this out. There was a pretty bad accident on Summersville. Some of my friends are sending me Snapchats," and she showed me, like, the picture of, like,
The bike.
the body on the ground, like, covered,
Yeah,
you know,
on the
with-
tarp. Yeah, no, forget it. Yeah, me too.
But I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, because you're just like, that sucks, but you're not thinking, you didn't see the bike that he was on.
The
so.
day still felt off.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that he had a bike and that he wanted to learn how to ride,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how much he was out there and actually using it.
Writing it, okay.
And she showed me the picture or whatever. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings. It seemed like just like an off day. So I didn't really have too much to drink. I really didn't stay for too long. I went home and I got into bed, and then I got a call from my sister-in-law, which is at the time my brother-in-law's wife. And she called me. Well, she had asked me, like, "Hey, do you want to go out? Like, let's go hang out." You know, like, at the time we were both kind of going through the same thing. So she was, like, asking me to go out and hang out and this and that. And I really wasn't in the mood for it. Like I said, like, it was just like one of those off days.
Yeah, like you didn't feel like. Yeah.
So when I seen that she was, like, calling me and texting me, I figured, like, oh,
Maybe she's trying to bug you to go out. Or
it's
not bug
for
you, but.
that.
Yeah,
like, it's for that, you
Yeah.
know. So I didn't think much of it. I was already laying down. I was already in bed. I kind of rolled over and then rolled back over. And she kept calling me, and she kept calling me. And then she texted me, and she was like, "Call me." And so I was like, this is a little different.
Yeah,
like,
she
well, let me call
yeah.
her. So I called her, and, like, her first words were like, "It's Gogi," you know, like, and that was his name. They called him Gogi. That's his nickname. And she was like, "It's Gogi," you know, like, he got into an accident. And my first thought was like, okay, well, where's he at?
Yeah,
Here
like,
I come.
where do I need to go?
Coming,
Yeah,
I'm coming.
yeah,
I'm on
yeah,
my way.
Yeah.
And she was like, "No, we're here now." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Where is it at? Like, I'm on my way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go talk to him. I'm gonna go
Make sure he's good.
Yeah. And she was like, "You don't understand. Like, he didn't even make it there." And I instantly just got, like, sick to my stomach. It was like, my kid. Where's my kids? Where's my kids? My kids. What do you mean he got?
Yeah.
Were my kids with him? Where are my kids at? So then she told me she really didn't know too much about like the situation or what had happened. She just told me that she was like, you know, on her way there, or she was there. I don't even really remember. I just remember like getting sick to my stomach and being like, I've got to call you back.
Yeah.
So I called his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was like, he went to his dad's house and never came back. And I was like, what? What do you mean? So are you sure it's him, you know? You know, are you sure? Are you sure? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to believe that it was real, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Because you never, like you said,
No.
like, you never think that that'll happen to you.
No.
You never think that it'll happen to your kids.
Yeah.
So I called my mom. I called my mom, and my mom was like, where's your kids? Because my mom's with kids.
Yeah.
And I told her where my kids were at, and she was like, you need to go get your kids. You need to go get your kids right now. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
She's like, I need you to be strong.
Right.
I need you to be strong for your kids. I need you to go get your kids. I need you to be strong until tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So my sister and I were roommates at the time. So I go and I knock on my sister's door, like while I'm on the phone with my other sister-in-law. And I'm letting her listen to everything that's going on. And I'm just like,
I need you. Pretty much.
What do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Like, that's the last thing that you expect that's going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
So,
it's hard to wrap your mind around the whole situation.
Yeah. So she heard my mom and she was like, we got to go. And I was like, okay. So I literally got sick to my stomach on the way to her house.
Yeah.
Like, I literally was like, pull over. I need to
get air. Yeah.
I need to let it out.
Yeah.
And I did. And when we got there and my kids were already sleeping, it was probably 11 o'clock at night when I got the phone call. So I picked up my kids and they were like, what's going on?
I was going to say, they didn't know.
Well, they were already sleeping and I showed up anyways and I picked them up and I was like, Dad's been in an accident. We got to go. And they asked me, well, is he okay? And I told them, I was like, you know, I don't really know yet. Like, we have right now, we have to go home, you know? So I picked them up, I took them home, and then obviously I could not sleep that night.
No, I didn't.
I could not sleep at all, you know? I was just imagining.
Like, so much thoughts going through your head, everything,
thinking about just the rest of our lives, you know? Like, even though we weren't together, like, he was the rock to our family. Like, he was so sure of himself. He was so sure of what he wanted for himself and for our boys. And, you know, and it was just whenever I questioned, like, I could always just go to him and he would just be like, yay or nay or whatever. And it was okay, you know? And like I said, like, he always had my back, so it was scary. It was such a scary feeling. And when my kids woke up the next day, I let them know, you know, like, hey, Dad didn't make it through the accident. And it was just a whole roller coaster right after that.
How old was your oldest and your youngest?
My oldest was in 5th grade.
Okay.
Obviously, he was about 9 years old, and my youngest was in about 2nd grade.
Got it.
So they were both still pretty young. I don't know if my youngest still, I mean, he does to an extent, but at the moment, I don't think that he fully understood what was going on. My oldest, though, like, he had a pretty good relationship with his dad. Yeah, they were best friends, you know? So I think that he took it the hardest. And instantly he would cry for him. He would have nightmares, you know, he'd wake up, he'd wake me up.
Did they ever sleep with you?
They didn't. Well, my youngest did. My youngest did before this happened. But after this happened, I think I started sleeping with them.
I was
but it was such a weird feeling.
Like instantly they were all in my bed and there was 3 of them and they would all, and I'd be like, at first I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like milked it, but after a while I was like, okay, we got to get this together because we're all not enough in
What did
this
you
bed.
feel?
I felt like you. I think the main thing I kept thinking about is what you said is like, who's gonna walk my daughter down the aisle? Like, who's going to take them to their first, you know, like dance, or who's gonna show them how to cut their fake. I don't know how to teach this. You know, like, who's gonna cut their hair because they're my barber? No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, he was my barber, and I never went into a barber place my whole time because he'd be like, no, wait outside. I'll never be able to go in it. So it was like, it was so weird. It was kind of like I can hear him when I would go to him, like, this is why he never let me in him. Because I hated it. I hated going to him. They're all guys. Like, they're talking about stupid stuff. Or they're like, you know what I mean? They're talking about sports or this or that. And I'm just like, God, can you just hurry up and cut these boys' hair? Like, you know what I mean?
Honestly, I've always taken my guys to get their
haircuts.
But it was to his barber.
Oh, it's his barber, yeah.
But like I told you, we had a weird relationship
yeah.
where he was always kind of like, I'm setting you up for the future. And I was like,
what
are you talking about?
What are
you talking about? We're supposed to have a future. Like, you're supposed to be doing this. So I always took them to the bar, but I know what you mean, because it's like as soon as I walked in,
you feel like, are they looking at me or this, you know? And they're always cool. Like the people, I mean, they're always cool, and they loved him because he is a barber, so they were always had like a bond. Most of the guys I've ever went to, but it was just like I said, it wasn't even them. It was just the other people, or the people chilling, or the guy that's about to go get, you know, on a date or something, and he's talking about, and she was blah blah blah, and it's like, I don't want to hear none of that stuff. I don't care.
See, my barbers or their barbers were pretty good about being like, because they're my friends too. We all went to school together, but
and they've been cutting their hair ever since they're little, right?
Yeah.
So they have a whole bond. That's a barber becomes a
in.
family member. Okay, a barber is that's it. That's it.
Matters.
It matters. It matters. That's why I loved it too, because he'd always just cut their hairs. I never had to go anywhere. Okay, so that day happens, and you know the morning is a big day. I feel like, because I will, you know, like I feel like when I finally went to sleep, because like you said, I didn't sleep, but when I finally went to sleep, I feel like I woke up and I seen like 128 messages. I seen like 22 missed calls, and my Facebook was just bing, 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 bing. Is it real? Is it this? Da, 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 da. So like, how did you? And then on top of it, like I feel like when I woke up, I kind of was like, oh, that was a bad dream. So I was hoping that it didn't happen. And then when I see my phone, that was like made it real. Like, you know, for me, I was like, oh wait, it did happen. It did happen. And that gut stomach feeling came back again, you know.
I think that the weird thing for me is that my mom also lost her dad, and my dad also lost his dad, and my stepdad lost his dad.
Wow.
And they all lost their dads at a pretty young age. And from the very beginning, my mom was just kind of like, okay,
this
happened.
Like, numb
this happened
from it.
You're gonna have to deal with it. And you're gonna have to deal with it because you have these two little boys who are looking
up
at
to you.
Looking at everything that you do. So that morning, I remember my sister is my best friend. Like we've gone through so much, but I remember that my sister and I literally stayed up like all night. She's the one who drove me to pick up my kids, and me and her, I tried to sleep and I couldn't, but as soon as I woke up, she was totally there for me. She's been there for me like ever since, you know. And we talked about it, and she let me know, like, you've got to let them know, you know, like, you're just let them know. And I did, and I think that from there, my mother-in-law and I, we didn't really have a really good relationship up until that point. Me and her had our differences before he passed away, and I think that because he had moved on, when he moved on, he asked that I respect, you know, like his new relationship, which is fine, whatever, you know, like I said, like I'd rather him be with one person than a bunch of different people. So I did. I did for a while. I respected what he had going on, and my heart hurt for his parents, you know, because I can imagine. I can imagine his mom.
I say the same thing.
I honestly don't want to.
I don't.
I don't want to, and I'm sorry, Barb. Sorry about that. Sorry. Sorry.
Just a Spanish little lesson right there.
Siri and Espanol, gotta stamp on it.
That day, did you go over to her house?
So that day I went and picked up my kids and I came home and I put my kids
meaning the next day when you woke up, did you go talk to her, or did you?
So we all went to my father-in-law's house, which was kind of like mutual ground. And you know what? My father-in-law, my heart goes out to him because he lost both of his parents earlier that year. He lost his mom, his dad, and his son. Like, I can't even imagine what that would feel like. I don't know how he does it, but it's very admirable, and I'm glad and I'm thankful that he's still here and that he's still a part of their life. And we went over there, and everybody was over there, and everybody was trying to be supportive and everything. I remember getting a phone call from the principal that day, like my kid's principal at their school. And I remember, like, that was the first time that anybody said anything besides like a family member about it actually happening. And I almost felt like I don't know what the word is for it, but I didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was with the family, it was one thing, but hearing it from somebody else,
yeah, it made it like real in a way. Like, I don't know, it's like, yeah, like an awakening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it was weird because, you know, like he was a good provider.
Yeah.
He was a good dad. You know,
He's a
like
good person.
he never wanted. He was a good dad.
Yeah.
Like he never asked for handouts. Like he
Yeah.
never asked for anything from anybody. You know, like he always took good care of his kids. You know, like he always helped out or whatever. And then people started with the, you know, like, I'm so sorry for this, I'm so sorry for that. But I kind of felt like anybody who knew him, like, would not have wanted, like, he would not have wanted anybody to be sorry about anything.
Right.
You know, like, I think that, I don't know, even to this day, I kind of feel like maybe he kind of knew that his life would be a little bit shorter.
I always feel like that. I feel like when people, it's time to go, it's like a foreshadowed thing, because it was funny you said that. Because with me and Frankie, we weren't always the best, but right before he passed, we actually started having like a cool co-parenting relationship, like where I could drop off the kids and we weren't arguing. We would just be like, you know, okay, I'll see you later, da da. And I remember him calling me saying, I just dropped Xavier off, but for some reason he won't stop crying. And I'm like, well, he loves you. He's like, I know, but like, it really hurt me, you know? And it was like, and then I met a couple of his friends, and they're like, oh, I just seen Frankie. It was kind of like he was like amending some of his relationships that were like broken before he passed.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, that's why I feel like, and this isn't the first time, like I've talked to other moms, they all have a little thing like that they did, or they just started changing on something, you know? And it's like, I don't know if it's God preparing them for it, you know what I mean? But I do believe in that, just like with my dad before he passed, mind you, I've always been churchy, like loved going to church, going back, you know, we steer away, but I always bring it back, you know? And my dad, no. But right before he passed, he had a tuxedo because he was actually going to go to the church with one of his friends. And it was like, wow, like that made me cry. That's the biggest thing ever, because it was like, I prayed about him because I knew I couldn't talk to him about it, but I always be like, oh, please let my dad, you know, especially before he passed, you know. So I think that people before they pass, a lot of times it's like little things, you know what I mean, start happening. And I just think that's the way God's working on it, you know what I mean? He takes his. But so do you feel like when when the funeral came, did the boys go? And do you feel like did you feel like you needed to see him to be real, or you didn't see him?
Well, because we were married still, I had to.
Oh, so you had to identify him.
Yeah. Like our relationship, like it bypassed everything else that he had going on in his life. So I remember being in the
Mark?
Yeah, and we're talking funeral plans. And his mom's a very strong woman, so she instantly jumped in and she took charge and she took control, which was great. It's a tough situation. I wouldn't have really known what to do, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember being in the room and I was sitting off to the side, and his girlfriend was like stepping up and, you know, talking about what he would have wanted and everything like that, which I wasn't too sure, because again, we got together when I was really young. We were really young. We had kids when we were really young, and we never really thought that this would happen. So we didn't really get to the point to where we talked about like what would happen if something like that would happen.
Yeah.
So
because you guys were really young, right? 28, 29? No.
Yeah. So I was 18 when we got married, and then I was 19 when we had our first son, and then I was 21 when we had our second son. But we separated when I was like 22, so we spent a lot of time away from each other, but we would still have like some kind of relationship up until his babies came into the picture or whatever.
But when he passed, because he's a year older than you, he was 29 and you were 28?
He was 28, I was 26.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, I may be wrong, but he's 86, I'm 87, and he passed away in 16.
16,
so.
Yeah, that's the same, because it's crazy, because I remember Frankie passed, and then 3 months later, Gogi passed, and how I saw Gogi was, I think maybe it was Lisette. posted RIP, and I was like, no. I was like, no. And then I looked to see yours, and nothing was posted. But then I seen on Facebook someone was tagging you in it. So I called Megan, and I'm like, Megan, did you hear what he's like? She instantly was just like, yeah. I was like, oh,
yeah,
I
he
feel
was
so
never big on
bad.
social
Like,
media. So, like,
yeah.
when everything happened, like, I didn't feel like, because I did care about him, you know, like,
Yeah.
I still respected his wishes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that happened that I feel like he wouldn't have kind of
never
wanted
yeah.
or agreed with or whatever. But I just felt like I wanted my kids to remember their dad, and I wanted my kids to know that their dad loved them, and I wanted them to know that they had other family members who loved them and supported them even though their dad wasn't around. So I've always just kind of done my best to respect his wishes.
They did go to the funeral, or they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. They were there the day. So that day happened where we had to go to Higgins. He had his viewing or ceremony or whatever at Higgins. He was cremated. Which I was kind of
against.
I was a little indifferent about it.
You wanted him to be buried?
Yeah, just because, you know, things get weird sometimes when people pass away.
Yeah, like souls and all that stuff.
Well, I wanted everybody to be able to visit him.
Got it.
I wanted everybody to be able to go there and show their love and respect.
Understand.
You know, whatever. I think that was like, I'm Catholic. I always grew up with like that's the way that you do it.
Yeah.
But like I said, he had lost his grandma and he had lost his grandpa not too long before that. So I guess it was a conversation that he had with like his girlfriend and his mom and everything. So I guess his wishes were to be cremated. So when we were in that room, the girlfriend was like kind of making all the calls. I was just kind of staying in my lane, doing my own thing or whatever. And the mom was there kind of dictating, you know, what would happen or what not. And then all of a sudden the lady she goes, were you guys married? And and the girlfriend goes, well, he was married, but not to me. And then the lady goes, well, then I'm talking to the wrong person. And then she goes,
straight to you.
The wife here? And my mother-in-law was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, well then that's the person that I need to be talking to. So then they completely shifted the focus. But because we hadn't been together in a while, like I felt like the right thing to do would have been to give the mom that authority.
Yeah, I understand.
I completely just signed off and gave everything to the mom.
Yeah.
Like I felt like as a mom, that's.
To be honest, if I wasn't around, then okay, I would understand the wife. But I feel the same way. If it was my child, and I don't care how old he is, I'd want to say, you know. But at the same time, I would respect if he says he wanted to be, you know, cremated. Because Frankie said that. He always used to talk about, I don't know why, but he always said, like, if I die, don't put me in the ground. Like, I don't want bugs in me. I don't want blah, blah, blah. Like, he'd always just say, like, I would rather just cremate me. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
so
we honestly never really had that conversation. Like, when me and him were together, like, we were just best friends. Like, we had fun.
Yeah.
We traveled, we explored, like, we were friends, we had mutual friends. Like, it was just fun. Like, he really was just, like, my best friend. We really didn't talk about that. Like, we really didn't. I never thought that it would happen.
So did you guys end up doing what you guys did cremate him?
So his mom decided that we should cremate him, and
does she have him?
She has him, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? Me and her, like, I remember like the day that we were at Dad's house, and it was like the day after, and everybody was there. Me and her didn't have a good relationship, and it was like the first time that I seen her, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And she was like, you don't know what I'm going through, and I'm like, I'll never forget that. Like, and I was just like, you're right. Like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I absolutely do not. I'm sorry that you even have to go through
this.
it.
Yes.
Like, I can't even imagine. I don't want to imagine. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. And then after that, we both kind of just broke down. And ever since that day, I think that me and her have just, like, we've healed together. I think that nobody really understands, like, our pain is a little bit different. But I mean, there's other people who have gone through similar things, you know, but
well, that's also why, like, I feel like I'm so big about this, because just how you're saying how you feel is exactly how I feel. Like, no matter what, I'm always gonna have respect for his mom, you know, because I don't ever want to feel what he his mom feels like. I love my kids more than in life itself.
That's a different kind of
I think that hurts, but I feel like one thing we'll always have in common is that I can say that I feel like I understand because I have loved him, not as much as him, but I did love him, and my kids love him. So I can get that heart-wrenching pain she must have to deal with, you know. And like you said, I feel like my mother too is very strong, very, very strong. Just how I talk to her, she has such a, like, even if I say, like, throw out little moments like, man, you know, I just wish maybe if he was here, my sons would blah blah, and he's like, well, she's always really good on words, like, you know, he is here, and they do know him, and they do have a relationship with him, and they do, you know, they can feel him and talk to him many times, so it's good to have that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's what's helped me the most is all of the love and support. And his aunt actually gave me a little like cross a couple of days after he passed away, but I think that like on the cross it said one day at a time, and out of all of the advice that I've gotten through this whole journey, that's what stuck with me the most is, you know, just one day at a time. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Life is not promised, and sometimes life is shorter for some people than others. And it's not, it's what you make of it, you know, like everybody has a story, everybody has a testimony, and it's not what happens to you, I feel like, but how you react to it that counts. And I feel like my kids will be stronger from this, I will be stronger from this. Of course. And because we have faith, I believe that we will see him again. And I will let him have it. You know, and his mom will probably let him have it, and his brother will probably let him have it.
Yeah, of course. That's what's going to happen. But what I would say is that what I am very proud of you is that, you know, this, you know, happened, but you didn't let it, you know, you didn't roll under a rock and just die. You didn't let it like beat you up to the point where you just couldn't figure out what you want to do. So like I remember when I first met you, you were working for the diner that you now own. And so I want to pick up my cup and congrats.
Oh, thank you.
You know, because I look up to you a lot for taking on a whole restaurant. You know, you and your sister, 2 women, you know, someone who did lose their husband at such a young age. You took that and you empowered yourself. You made yourself a go-getter. Well, you've always been a go-getter, but you made it go where now you can look at even bigger things. Instead of just saying, why me? Why did this happen to me? You know, why this? So your kids can even look up and say, that didn't defeat my mom. You know what I mean? No. So I'm not going to let it defeat me. You know
I think
a
lot of it has to do with me being raised in the church and me having faith. And even though life hasn't been perfect, like I still have that foundation. And I'm trying my best to provide that for my kids. And I think that what helped a lot too is that like when this happened, my mother-in-law also dove into her faith and attended church and got baptized and brought the kids and encouraged it. You know what I mean? Like, she would send out like Bible verses every day just to keep it positive. It's not always like that. No. But life, I mean, there's no rules to it. I think that more than anything, that's what I've learned the most out of this is like that tomorrow is not promised. Anything can happen. And life really is what you make of it. And I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, we will see him again.
I truly believe that. I truly believe that you guys will meet again. I'm corny where I believe in like the clouds and we like running and we're like, oh.
I don't know about all that.
I know, but that's how I look at it. I just feel like heaven's like amazing, and I feel like it's the best place ever. So when people used to say, I'm sorry, I'm like, I'm not sorry, because at the end of the day, I know they're in the best place in the whole wide world. Like there's no other place. If we ask them right now if they come back, they'd probably say no, because it's no problem. But it just sucks that we have to be down here without them. You know what I mean? Because I know from me losing my dad at times, I know there's days where they probably like, I just would like to talk to him again. You know, or say hi to him.
I think that sometimes that's where I remind myself that I'm such a lucky girl, because even though having a step parent is not the ideal situation, like I told you guys earlier, like my mom, my dad, my stepdad, like they all lost their dad. But I was fortunate enough to have my dad and a stepdad. So I think that my stepdad did such a great job with my sister and I feel like there's hope for my kids because my stepdad gave my sister and I hope, and he's been such a big part of our childhood and the foundation and our morals and all of those things, you know.
Well, since you're stepping on that topic, how do you feel? So, you know, you I can tell you guys had like a like solid relationship, you and your kid's father. He passed, and then you and your, you know, mother-in-law were able to help each other plus church, you know. How do you feel like when it was time kind of for you to get out there and like mingle or talk, like how do you feel like that affects
the way that happened? That's a whole nother thing. You guys, are you ready to go?
Okay, so answer the question is, do you still now, and did you then feel like because of the situation you had to look at relationships totally different?
Oh yeah, so he kind of had bricks into place before all this happened. So it was like, although it was tough emotionally, financially, my kids and I have not really ever had to struggle because he had already put those bricks into place. And I think that that's one of the things that my mother-in-law respected the most about me from the very beginning, is the fact that I was always like, look, he's a good dad. I'm not gonna husband, and this is where my brother-in-law still sometimes kind of bump heads, because I'm like, look, dude, you were not married to the guy. I was married to the guy. Like, what you want from the guy is different from what I want from the guy. But my mother-in-law always respected that, and I've always respected that he was a good dad. I really did. I still to this day, like, come his birthday, like the anniversary of his passing, his birthday, even like New Year's, even my kid's birthday, I'm like, what? I think to myself, like, what would he have wanted? Well, because I know deep down the bottom of my heart that he always wanted what was best for his kids, for our family, whether we were together or not. Like, that's something that I never questioned. You know, and I've been pretty open and honest about that from the very beginning. So dating after him, so there are things that come with having children by someone who passes away. So I don't know how it works, if they didn't work or not, but he had a pretty good job. He paid into his Social Security. He had life insurance. He had a pension. He had all of that in place. He had he was in the union since he was 18 years old. So we really didn't have to struggle a whole lot. Like, that month after it happened, it was really, really hard. Just because it was like funeral expenses, you know, food.
It was a whole bunch of
drinks. Invitation cards, outfits,
the funeral in general, cremating itself, all that stuff.
Well, my mother-in-law took care of all of that, but even then, like, there was still like, there's a dress code. I'm a single mom. Like, I had to take time off.
You have to get dressed. They have to get dressed. You have to take time, and you have to take time.
And I understood that, like, my kids are a representation of him. Like, we represent him now. You know, like, even the other woman and that
they
child,
represent him
like,
too.
And I understood that, like, right away, and it was hard. It was hard because I was already a single mom before this happened, and to have to take the time off. And my boss, I know that you said that it was a little tough for you because you didn't have a little time off. My boss was super understanding, but I don't have sick days. I don't have paid time off where I work at. Like, what you put into it is kind of what you get out of it. So if I don't go to work, like, I don't get paid. So I was able to take as much time off as I wanted to. But that meant that I didn't get paid. So, but my mother-in-law, again, she's very strong, very intelligent woman. She instantly was like, look, this is what you need to do. And she's pretty much, like, walked me through
it. That's awesome.
And that's why I have so much love and respect for her.
Because she helped you out big time.
I think that in a way, we've helped each other
out. Totally. It's a teamwork thing. Did she, okay, so for instance, just even with the whole dating thing, when you felt like going back to dating, did she ever say anything to you?
This is how the whole dating thing even came about. So 2 years after he passed away, we always have like a celebration of life for him on the anniversary of the day that he passed. And I don't know, some people say it's healthy, some people say it's not. But I like it because what we like to do is we all get together, we remember him. And then another benefit of him being cremated is that we get to bring his ashes. So he's still with us. So he's still with us, like Father's Day. He's still, you know, he's still there, even if it's in one form or another. But so his ashes were there, and the family was there. And I think that was the year that like they gave my kids, like right before he used to do scaffolding, and right before he passed away, he was working on taking down the old Bay Bridge as they were rebuilding the new Bay Bridge. Okay. So that was like a big deal, and it was something that he was very, very proud of. And they gave my kids like his hard hat, his goggles, his boots, his gloves, things like that.
So I can remember him.
Yeah, and then what we like to do is we always get balloons, and then we give everybody Sharpies.
They write a message on them.
And then, and we don't share the message. It's just, it's a private message between you and him and God, and it goes up, you know, to heaven. And we had all done that or whatever. So we're outside, and we were at my sister-in-law's house. He has one sister. Well, he has a couple of stepsisters, but he has like one sister. We were at her house, and my father-in-law comes up to me as we're like letting the balloons go. And he was like, Yoli, I think it's time. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I think it's time that you move on. You know, like I dated here and there before, but never anything serious. Like never anything where like my kids were around or, you know, because I think that deep down in the bottom of my heart, I always felt like it's a phase we're going through.
Right.
Even I didn't really know what to make of the other kid. But I feel like when you're married, like it's different.
Got it.
I just felt like
I mean, it is different. It's a big thing. I always tell people, like to say all the time, like, oh, marriage, whatever. But it is a big thing in a couple of senses of like, if you didn't, weren't married, you wouldn't get a piece of what you get. So even when they pass, you're taken care of. And not just that, if marriage was so just an easy, simple thing, then everybody would be married. But there's a lot of people that's not, because we know it's a big deal. And people don't want to step on that it's a big deal, but it is a big deal.
Sometimes there's times I want to break up with my kids. I'm like, here, I'm done
I
with
would,
you.
no, yes. I tell the kids all the time. I'm like, I cannot stand kids. Like, why do you have kids? I don't know. I'm still wondering right now.
Well, relationships are hard. And I think that my kids help me remember that, they're hard.
Sure.
They take work.
Yeah.
My father-in-law from the very beginning was like, and he's really the reason why I felt like, okay, it's okay to do this. Like, it's okay to kind of feel around. It's okay to be a little. Because I was still lost. I was still lost. Like, even though we've been separated for a long time. Well, I mean, I felt like for me, sitting from where I was at, I felt like, damn, how many times am I going to lose this guy? Like, I lost this guy.
In the beginning, we went to Texas. And you came back.
And then I lost him to like all of our issues that we had going on. And then I lost him again to this other woman and this child. I get what you're saying. I get it. And then I lost him again when he was gone. So for me, it was really, really hard, because I think that I really thought that we would be able to make it work eventually. And I don't know if that's just me being naive on my part. But I really did.
I kind of look at it as like on the opposite way. You can always look at it as, because I like to play devil advocate. I'm like, maybe it's the opposite. You always have him. You know what I mean? Like, he always came back, and even now he's still not gone. You know what I mean? And you still have him. So it's like, I feel like you guys were destined to be what you guys were. I think he taught you.
And you know what? He would say things like that. And that's, I think that's something that messes with my head sometimes, because it's like, okay, if that was the case, then why do some of these other things, you know? Like, I get it. I'm a little strong. But come on, I'm human.
A little.
I'm human, though. It's hard.
No, but I mean, at the same time, like, because even though he's not here, he's still here. He still makes sure you're good.
I'm definitely
you got close with his family. So, like, those are all big things that, even though he's not here, it's still a good thing. Because I was the same way. We weren't very, like, I was close with his family, but at the time of us breaking up, because we broke up, it was like, okay, we're going to be on Frankie's side. Like, they weren't mean, or they weren't nothing to me, but it was like, this is my son. I got to figure out what's going on with him. So when he passed, it was kind of like, no matter what anybody was going through, that wasn't there anymore. It's like everyone just was like, let's just get on page and let's get this. Honestly, I felt the most love I've ever, and it's crazy because he used to talk about all his families, and when we grew up, he has like 18,000 cousins, and he really does. Because when he passed, there was literally all the cousins I heard about, and he would tell me about, or they were like, I was like, wow, I know that Frank right now would be like, I wish I was there, because that's what he would talk about. Like, I want my family to get back together. Like, we used to have all these memories, and it's like, it sucked that it had to be at his funeral that they're all there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what my biggest thing that woke me up to life being so short. Like, we should, those excuses, those not answer question, or phone, or not, let's say, make an excuse why you can't go nowhere just because you really want to lay in your bed. Sometimes it's like, maybe if you did get up, you know, you'd be able to have more time with these people, because we all have time limits. I remember when I first seen you after it happened, we started talking, and I asked you, or you asked me actually, you said, does your kids ever, when they are mad about something, do they ever use their dad's excuse and start crying and stuff? And it was so crazy, because at that moment I was talking to you, I actually really needed someone to talk to like you, because my friends, don't get me wrong, I love them all, but none of them went through it, you know, besides one. And so it was like, when they would talk to me, I love their advice and everything, but it was hard to say those things, because they don't know what that feels like. So in what you said, because it was happening a lot.
Very scary place to be. Like, this was a scary place to be,
you
know, because it's like one thing to be like, hey girl, me and you, like, talking, you know, it's another thing to like open up and share
story
with everybody else, because some people will understand, but other people won't. And it really it takes you kind of going through it to be able to understand something as serious.
And that's exactly why when I seen you and we ate and just the whole conversations we had, I was like, you know, there's probably tons of people out there that are just like me and you, and that, you know, just want to be heard or wants to hear our story, because they're probably listening saying, dang, that was me, or my son does that too, or God, I remember that day and it was bad, and luckily I know those two girls are doing a pretty dang good job.
I think that the older I get, the more I realize that like everybody has their own testimony. You know, this is my testimony. This is our testimony.
Exactly.
Like, what you're doing is great for so many other people, because like I said, like, being vulnerable is a very scary place to be.
It is.
And even just being female, even just being like, you know, our backgrounds, like our ethnic backgrounds, even just like us being young mothers, even us just being single mothers, even now us being widows, like, life takes a lot of courage, you know, and it's not, and I think I said this to you before we started filming, but it's not really what happens to you, but what you do with it, how you react to it, and I really do believe that, and I think that like it's our duty in a way to share our testimony so that other people know that, like, you know what, life does happen, because life does happen. It happens to all of us. This is just the way that it happened to us. Like, this is what I feel like God thought that we could endure. Maybe people around us needed healing. Maybe our families, our generation. Maybe, I don't know, like, maybe it was just, it's our destiny. Maybe we were strong enough to withhold it, you know? So I feel like it's very important to share with others, because it does happen. Well,
Yolanda, I'm so grateful for you even coming, because like I said, I know it's hard, and I know that, you know, it takes some real courage for you to come, but I really appreciate you telling your story, letting me kind of pick at it a little bit, seeing you questions, but I'm really, 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 really excited to see, you know, what you and your kids, and, you know, I'm excited to see about your restaurant, and I'm excited to see just basically what, you know, what your journey is, but anyways, I'm so grateful for you being on the show. Please, 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 everybody, my kids just taught me that I'm supposed to say this, like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. But yes, please, you guys, make people aware. Please, anybody that needs to hear this message, send it to your friends, send it to your cousins, send it to your, yes, we are here, we understand.
Life happens.
Yeah, life happens. And if you want to be heard, if you want to sit,
you're not alone,
next to me on this lovely podcast and just, you know, talk, basically. It's like girls talk. Yeah, you have a story, but we can also be human, you know, and have a good time. And I think the biggest part of healing is talking. So, yeah, that was episode 2. And we'll see you next time.